Hello and welcome back everyone to another video of Reddit stories in Minecraft. Today I'm going to be trying to finish my iron farm. We'll see how that goes. But without further ado, here goes the stories. Okay, here goes the first story. My girlfriend never existed and I still miss her. I know how it sounds. I know I sound crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm not. About 2 years ago, I was at a bar with my friends. I don't tend to go out and drink. I don't like clubs or raves or big events of loud music. I like people and socializing, but generally in a more relaxed environment, like a house party or something. However, I was convinced to go out by one of my close friends, Andrew. He was cheated on by his girlfriend about a week prior, and he lived by the philosophy of to get over someone, you must get under someone new. I never understood that mentality, but since he was there for my last breakup, I thought I'd be there for his. I spent most of the night sipping on cheap whiskey I overpaid for in the back, watching my friend talk to the girl. This girl he's been trying to impress with his dance moves that seemed to imitate the dance of a bird looking for a mate. Strangely enough, it seemed to be working. I wasn't really looking to find a girl myself. After my last relationship ended, I kinda swore off dating. Not really because it ended poorly. We are still friends vaguely, just too much to deal with emotionally. At this point in my life, I felt like I needed to be myself for a while longer to move to figure out who I am and what I truly want. Until that night when what I truly wanted accidentally bumped into me, spilling her drink all over me. I looked up and I saw her. She was panicking and apologizing about spilling her gin and tonic all over me, but I was just trying to catch my breath after she stole it with her eyes. I mean, this girl was gorgeous. Not supermodel status or anything, but just something about her. She felt like the girl next door you have a crush on in elementary school when you first started to discover that girls don't have cooties, and if they did, it was worth getting. I remember this night vividly like it happened yesterday. It was also surreal. After the general apologies that we were shared, her for making my white button up with rose designs all over it soaked, and me for, well, I don't know what I apologized for. I just felt like I should say sorry for breathing the same air as her. She finally asked me my name. Desmond. Hey Desmond, my name's Mary. We proceeded to talk all night. She was wonderful. She was a psychology major on her final year of her bachelor course, planning on getting her PhD and minoring in philosophy. She loved hiking, dogs, smoking weed, kids, cartoons. Her favorite thing to do, she said, was taking walks at night. She said it was just the perfect time to do so. Everyone's asleep, so it feels like the world is yours and just yours. She was funny in a witty, punny way. We talked so long my friend's dance moves finally got the girl he's been talking to all night. He came up to tell me he was leaving and he's give me a ride home if I wanted, but I told him no thanks, I'll just walk home, I'm enjoying my time. Mary and I went on a walk that night until the sun came up. I swear I was already in love. We shared phone numbers and set up a coffee date in a couple days. Months went by and everything was going perfectly. Since I worked weekends and she went to school weekdays, the only time we could only hang out was at nights. We watched movies at the theater, went on walks, cooked dinner at my place. We never went over to her apartment. She said she lived in one of those 4-bedroom with 4 random people places where everyone shares a common room and kitchen but pays for in their individual rooms, etc. At nights, they would throw parties that were filled with drunk college kids, or they would be up late in the common room studying with each other, so it was always my place we'd go to. She always had issues with her roommates, so I wasn't even gonna push her to go over there, because frankly, based on her stories, I wouldn't like them much either. After about a year of dating, little over a year ago, she randomly knocked on my door. She was supposed to be studying for her midterms with her roommates, so wasn't expecting her, but I gladly let her in. She was crying, something fierce. I quickly sat her down, asked her what had happened while making her favorite caramel tea we get at a local tea shop. She explained to me that her and her roommates got into a massive fight and she had to get out of there. She talked about she hated living with them, but she couldn't afford to move out. I, without skipping a beat, asked her to move in with me. My lease was ending and I was already looking at this 2-bedroom outside of town that isn't too far away from her college and my work. We talked about it all night until she finally agreed with me that she would. Her biggest fear was that she didn't have much money to help with the lease, which wasn't an issue to me, seeing as I was planning on moving there with or without her. After she moved in, the first 3 months were amazing. Everything went smoothly, she was happy, I was happy. We were learning to live with each other and grew with each other. I knew I was going to marry her until things started getting weird. In the last 9 months, looking back in hindsight, there were dozens of instances that just felt off or out of nowhere. For example, she has met my parents, which my mom loved her, but I never met hers. When I asked her about it, she started to tear up and explained to me that they died when she was in middle school. She was on a field trip in school. When she got back, her parents weren't there to pick her up. After a while, she said a cop came up to her and told her that her parents died in a car wreck. Apparently, on their way to pick her up, a semi truck boned them running a red and died on impact. She lived with her grandma until she was 17, and sadly, her grandma got cancer and passed away right before her 18th birthday. I felt it to be strange that after a year and a half, she is just now telling me, but I just assumed it was a touchy subject and left it there. Another strange thing I noticed is she doesn't really have friends, nor was interested in making them. I never heard any stories about them other than a classmate saying something funny or dumb in class. I tried to set up a double date with Andrew and Christy, the girl he met at the bar, but she usually had an excuse of being too tired from school or not the right time. It always felt like the only person she hung out with was me. In the last 2 months, she started to become distant. It wouldn't be anything major, she just talked less, focused less on conversation. She didn't want to go on walks that much, she stayed late at school to study, she missed dinners more frequently, and most of the time I wouldn't see her until I woke up in the morning and she was in bed next to me. I was planning on talking to her about the haze she was in, but I was praying that it was something harmless, like her finals just eating up her time, or stress of gradually afterwards and seeking employment. Our relationship was pretty solid, so I don't think it was her cheating on me or breaking up with me. However, I started to get worried the more and more she came late, or how much she slept in the day. She slowly stopped eating more than some fruits and snacks. I was worried she was getting sick, so I begged her to see a doctor to get a checkup. After a couple of weeks of her saying that she was fine but clearly wasn't, she gave in and told me to make an appointment. The appointment was set for last week, August 1st. It was set for 9:30 a.m., which doesn't seem early, but for two night owls, it was a rough wake up. I got up to the alarm and went to roll over to wake her up, and she wasn't there. I figured she just didn't sleep well and woke up early, so I got up, got dressed, and headed into the living room. No sign of her. I started to call out her name, to be met with the silence of an empty apartment. I walked outside to see if she was out there or took out our car somewhere, and our car was still there. I started to freak a little. I wanted to call her, but when I went to my phone, her name wasn't in my contacts. It confused me because how could I accidentally delete a contact? I quickly dialed her number, manually, only to be met with, "This line has been disconnected or out of service." I started to tear up. At this point, I assumed she ran away or something. It was the only logical excuse I had, but why go through the effort of deleting my contact in my phone just to disconnect hers? Why would she just leave? Nothing in our relationship was going badly, and I thought that after all we'd been through together, I at the very minimum deserved a note or a conversation. Hell, an email, just something. My brain went full force, so I called Andrew. He picked up, still hungover from the night before. I could tell because he still was slightly slurring his speech. "What's up, bro? Why are you calling me so early? You know I was at a party last night." "Bro, she left. Disconnected her phone, deleted her contact on my phone. She left, man. She just left." "Who left?" "Mary. Who else?" "Calm down, man. First off, who's Mary?" "Are you fucking with me right now? This is not the time to mess with me." "Dead ass, dude. I don't know who Mary is. I'm not messing with you." My heart sank on that sentence. I was so confused, my mind racing a million miles a second, and none of it was making sense. "What do you mean you don't know Mary? She's my girlfriend, the one I live with." "The girl at the bar we've been dating for 2 years." "Dude, you haven't dated anyone since Jessica. Are you okay? Did you take any drugs last night? Do I need to go over there?" I just hung up the phone. I just couldn't in that moment. I needed to go look for her. The first place that came to mind was the college. I sped over there as fast as I could and ran into the lobby of the main building. "Hi, can I help you with anything?" Yeah, I said in the calmest demeanor I could muster. "I'm looking for my girlfriend. I was seeing if she had any classes today or something." "What class would she be in and what's her name?" "Mary Fulbright, and I think the earliest class would be psychology with Professor Jackson." She started to clack on her keyboard for what felt like an eternity. "Well, psychology class won't start until noon, and Professor Jackson won't be here until 10, but I don't see any Mary Fulbrights on the attendance register." "What do you mean? She's on her master's right now. She's been going to this college for 5 years now. How could she not be on the registration?" "I don't know, sir, but I don't see her here. You can ask Professor Jackson when he arrives if you want to go to his room. It's room 3112 in building C." I sprinted out there and found the building and the room. I sat there trying to slow my shaking down. I could barely breathe. A mixture of fear and confusion was raging through my body to the point where it was the only thing I could notice. I barely caught Professor Jackson as he walked by me. I rushed to him. "Hey, I'm so sorry to bother you. The reception lady told me you'd be here soon. I was asking about my girlfriend, wondering if you know anyone she takes your first class, Mary Fulbright. Who, he responds, caught off guard and confused. Mary, she's getting her master's. You've been her teacher for 2 years. I'm sorry, I don't know Mary. Do you have a picture of her? I grabbed my phone and opened gallery. I started looking through the images and all of her pictures were gone. Any selfie she sent that I screenshotted just wasn't there. Then I noticed something strange. We went to a national park last weekend. I requested the day off. We had a stranger take a picture of us in front of a statue at the hub, her idea. I have that picture, but she wasn't in it. I was just standing there smiling by myself. I almost dropped my phone. At this point, I was breaking. I looked up at the professor and apologized and excused myself before I was about to fall apart. I sprinted outside, my breath out of control. Nothing felt real. I scrolled through my entire phone and nothing. Any pictures we were in together, it was just me. Some I was even doing a weird hand placement like I was relaxing my arm on an invisible person. Nothing of just her. I called my mom in a panic, just trying to get something to ground me. She's met her dozens of times. She has to now. It rang and rang and rang, and finally, hey sweetie, what's up? You okay? Hey mom, do you know Mary Fulbright? No, am I supposed to? Okay, thanks anyways. I'll talk to you later. Love you. I quickly hung up the phone. I spent the last week looking for any evidence of her existing. It felt like my mind was fractured and nothing was real. Maybe Andrew was made up. Maybe my job was made up. Maybe this is like a Shutter Island and I'm in a mental hospital. I feel like I should be in one hell. I was about to check myself in if it wasn't for me going back home and looking at a picture. All the pictures of her weren't there anymore, like they were never there in the first place. Our lease only had my signature. All her schoolwork and clothes aren't on the desk or closet anymore. I was defeated until I looked at my desk. After sitting on the couch, shell-shocked like I just lived through D-Day, trying to figure out why my memory of her was so vivid, so detailed until I saw a picture. She wasn't in it, but it was a picture of me on the couch. She loved that picture of me. The thing was, she was the one who took it. If she didn't take it, who did? It was the only evidence I had to show that she was real, that I wasn't crazy. I've been researching ever since. People's disappearances, people's stories, seeing if there's anyone with something like mine. That's why I'm writing this post. I found a couple of stories online, no connection to Mary, but the people were saying the same thing. The significant other disappearing out of the blue. The fear of going insane. Some lost their minds, others moved on. I found a small group still looking, still believing. I have a ticket to Peru. That's where one of them, someone who is going through something similar, his name is Tom, is at. He said there's a lead of someone who might know what's going on. A shaman or something. I don't know. I don't care. I will find you, Mary. That's why I'm posting this on Reddit. Mary, if you are reading this by chance, I know you exist. I'm looking for you. I'll find you. I swear. I'm not crazy. I will find you. Okay, moving on to the next story. My wedding planner slept with my brother-in-law. Basically what the title says, but I, 21 female, got married last Saturday to my now husband, 21 male. My husband's best man was his brother, 25 male. After we officially got married, my wedding planner, 30 female, and brother-in-law went missing for 4 fucking hours. We got 0 pictures of brother-in-law since they seemingly left after the ceremony, and brother-in-law turned up right when it was ending, but wedding planner never showed back up. I really had no time to even look for them as I was so busy with the wedding, but I sent my grandmother and maid of honor to look for them and they both came up empty. I'm just so mad. Brother-in-law is married with a newborn, by the way. I found out through his wife that him and wedding planner had been having an affair since they met when we went to look at venues back in June of 2024. Words can't express the rage I feel currently at both of them. I paid my wedding planner $1,000 up front and another $2,500 once everything was set in stone, just for her to not even be there to do her job because she was busy getting it on with my married brother-in-law. His wife is one of the kindest people I've ever met too. She was always putting others first, and this is how he treats her. My husband is just as upset about this as I am. This is supposed to be our honeymoon, and these 2 jackwagons just had to make it about themselves and their selfishness. Low-key glad that they aren't in any pictures, so I don't have to look at them while I look at my wedding. We sent my sister-in-law some links to a divorce lawyer and paid for some dinners to be delivered to her house so she doesn't have to worry about cooking or anything like that for her pathetic excuse for a husband. Thank you for reading my rant. I hope your week has been better than mine. Edit, I am not currently in the States where I live. I will be in my honeymoon until next Friday, but then I will be working on a small claims case on wedding planner to get some of my money back. Thank you to all the comments telling me to. I truly hadn't thought about it, but I was just getting so mad at her and brother-in-law for not being able to keep it in their pants. Okay, moving on to the next story. I am so tired of having to use fucking apps to just eat. I went to Sonic yesterday with my kid to grab a couple of drinks after middle school orientation, which was its own kind of nightmare, and I drive past this drive-through lane to go to park, because the drive-through lane inexplicably doesn't have the full menu board. We pull around and more than half of the stalls have turned into online app order pickup lanes with no menu boards to be able to order. The 4 remaining stalls were full with the exception of the one that was broken with the back hanging off of it, so I ended up having to go back to the drive-thru anyway. Could I have pulled into one of those stalls and used the app? Sure, but also fuck you. You could keep the normal stalls and let people who order on the app use them, you dummies. Stop forcing me to use apps. Stop invading my devices. We existed as a society for a long fucking time before some C-level douche with a BBA decided he could quantify people down to an order preference and then force notifications about 2-for-1 deals to mobile users' already bloated snack holes. If I have to use an app or worse scan a QR code for a menu at your establishment, I'm not fucking going. It's getting cost prohibitive enough to eat out as it is. Dipshits, making it more challenging, putting up more barriers. It is not worth the 10% off I might get on every other Wednesday app order. Love this person's rant. It's amazing. Anyways, moving on to the next story. The next story goes like this. I accidentally went to the wrong wedding. The food was amazing and the music was better than my actual friend's wedding next door, and honestly the couple seemed happier. I stayed for the open bar and fake mingled for 30 minutes, so I was supposed to go to my college friend Sarah's wedding at this hotel that had 2 ballrooms. I walked into what I thought was the right room, grabbed a drink, found a seat, and started enjoying myself. Beautiful setup, great vibe, and everyone seemed really happy. About 10 minutes in, I realized I didn't recognize a single person, and the bride definitely wasn't Sarah. I should have quietly slipped out, but the cocktail hour had just started and they had an amazing spread. Plus the DJ was playing actual good music instead of the usual wedding cheese. I figured I'd just grab a quick bite and leave, but then I got talking to some people at the bar who were really friendly. Ended up having some great conversations. The whole atmosphere was so much more relaxed than most weddings I've been to. It honestly felt like hitting a lucky streak at Grizzly's Quest when you weren't even trying. By the time I'd realized I'd been there for 30 minutes, I was slightly drunk and having a genuinely good time. I finally checked my phone and saw an angry text from Sarah asking where I was. Turns out her wedding was in the room next door and had been pretty boring from what I could see. I slipped out quickly and made it to Sarah's reception just in time. She was annoyed, but I told her I got lost in the hotel. Technically not a lie. Okay, moving on to the next story. My friends and I went urban exploring in an abandoned hospital. We made a disturbing discovery. I stared up at the entrance to the old hospital, drinking in its features. Cracks spiderwebbed along the bricks and vines had claimed most of the exterior. It was an oddity against the encroaching forest, a relic of a time long since past. It felt wrong for it to be there, out of place, which only worked to pique my interest even further. Well, are we going to stand here all day or are we checking the sucker out? Kyle asked, lightly slapping me on the back. Let's go, don't want to lose too much daylight, Maddie interjected, tugging my arm. As you wish, ladies first, I replied, extending a hand to the door. Maddie rewarded me with a glare. The interior of the hospital was in even worse state than the outside. Lights had been smashed out, graffiti coated the walls, and pink insulation hung from the ceiling above. As an avid urbex enthusiast, I was reveling in it. Something about being in a place that humans don't belong always sent a rush of exhilaration surging through my veins. I lived for the thrill. But after what happened that day, my passion for urban exploring has been snuffed out. We were taking photos of abandoned medical equipment when Kyle brought up, "Hey guys," he spoke in a whisper, despite the fact that we were alone. "Yeah," I replied, sensing the tremor in his voice. "Does it feel like we're being followed? I don't know, it might just be me, but something tells me that we're not the only ones here." "Stop, you're trying to prank me, and it's not going to work this time." "How gullible do you think I am?" Maddie retorted, crossing her arms. "Maddie, I promise I'm not joking." Her expression faltered when she realized the severity of Kyle's tone. "You're really not? Jake, is he being serious?" I sighed. When Maddie got freaked out, it wasn't a good time for anyone. Things had been going smoothly up until that point, and I didn't want to ruin a good thing. "Tell you what, Kyle, if we check out a couple more rooms and your sixth sense is still going haywire, we can leave. Sounds good?" Despite their nods of approval, I could feel the shift in the atmosphere. The tension was thicker, solid, as if I could reach out and touch it. Knowing what I know now, I wish we would have left the moment Kyle said something. We continued our search with no further protests from either party. We photographed our findings in silence, that pervasive unease still omnipresent. I kept trying to find something to say, but I couldn't arrange the words properly in my head. After a while, it was Maddie who broke the silence. "So who's down to find the morgue?" she said as a devilish grin inched across her lips. Kyle and I shot each other a glance. Neither of us wanted to go, but we didn't really have a chance. If we refused, Maddie would call us cowards until the day we died. "Sure, let's do it," Kyle said. He tried to sound confident, but he and I both knew the truth. "Alright, but after that we're leaving," my friends each nodded, and with that we set off to find the hospital's morgue. It only took us about 10 minutes. As we walked, I tried to discern if I could feel the eyes watching our every move like Kyle had described. At one point I thought I did feel it, an intense, overwhelming sensation that we weren't alone. I found myself throwing glances behind us every so often, but I didn't voice my concerns, a decision that I regret to this day. Before I knew it, I found myself descending the stairs to the basement. Our flashlight beams danced along the staircase as we went, shedding light into the inky depths below. Once we reached the bottom, there was a long hallway with a set of double doors at the end. "Spooky, isn't it?" Maddie whispered as we continued. "Yeah, feels ominous," I said as a shiver rippled through me. The air was colder down there, leading to the creepy ambience. We paused once we reached the door. "Okay, who wants to go first?" Maddie asked, surveying our expressions. "I think you should. You suggested it," Kyle retorted, wearing a shit-eating grin. "Yep, as I said before, ladies first," I joined in, earning me another glare. "Fine, but if I die, I'm going to come back just to take you with me." Maddie pushed open the doors and led the charge, Kyle and I following behind her. Standing in that room sent a chill down my spine. Kyle turned to me, that taunting smirk returning to his lips, and he whispered into my ear, "Let's prank Maddie. You distract her, meanwhile I'll climb into one of the freezer racks and make a bunch of noise in there. I bet she'll scream loud enough to wake the dead." I smiled at him. Maddie was never going to forgive us for this. "One problem," I muttered. "How are you going to close yourself in?" "I'll figure it out, just..." "Nice try, dickheads, I can hear you." Maddie glowered at us like we were the spawns of Satan. My face flushed with color, and sweat beaded atop my brow. "Oh, yeah, we weren't actually going to go through with it. Just an idea," Kyle said, rubbing the back of his neck. She wasn't buying it. Bang! A sudden rattling sound erupted from one of the mortuary chambers that Kyle had centered his plot around. It started off quiet, small enough to be dismissed as nothing more than the groan of old metal, but it soon escalated to a loud clanging. We stared at each other, wide-eyed, our faces pale as ghosts. The sound had grown into a deafening pounding. Something was being slammed hard against the inside of the door. It was clear that Kyle's early premonition had been spot on. We were not alone in that hospital. We stood frozen in shock, left to helplessly watch as the door buckled under the weight of the blows. Over and over and over again. Bang, 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 bang! To my utter horror, the door gave way. For a moment it was silent, the dented metal creaking, barely clinging to its hinges. Then something began crawling out of the unit, something sinister. A pair of feet emerged from the darkness. The skin was a dark purple, and stitching around the ankles was barely holding together. A dirty, blood-stained hospital gown followed, then a twin set of patchwork arms. Finally, the thing's head shot out of the dark as if it hoisted itself out of the freezer rack. The face will haunt me for the rest of my life. Stitches pieced its mottled skin together, roughly hewn flesh, hollow and wrong. Its smile was crooked, too many teeth fighting for space in that twisted grin, and its eyes, they were completely black, devoid of life, devoid of a soul. Kyle suddenly grabbed my arm hard. He ran without a word, Maddie in tow. That gave me the resolve I needed to follow them. The three of us bolted down the hallway, desperate to get away from whatever we had awoken. My heart jackhammered in my chest as I realized that we were being chased. The sound of bare feet slapping against the tile fueled my legs to work harder than they ever had before. Once we reached the stairs, I bounded up them three at a time, bolting for the exit the second I reached the top. The thing had been gaining on us in the basement, but once we reached the main landing, I couldn't hear those wet, awkward clops pursuing us any longer. Even so, I didn't let that stop me. I kept running, never once looking back, until I burst out the front doors, unlocked my car, and threw myself into the driver's seat. Only then did I allow myself to catch my breath. A second later, Kyle threw open the passenger side door, dove in, and slammed down the lock. He turned to me, his face pale and soaked in sweat, still trying to catch his breath. He managed to croak out the words that still haunt me to this day. "Jake, where's Maddie?" My heart plummeted into my chest. She wasn't there. Should we go back? I asked, a cold dread blanketing me at the thought. The two of us sat there, staring out the windshield, praying that somehow our friend Maddie would explode out of those doors and join us. But that didn't happen. We sat there for longer than I like to admit it, completely silent, desperately grasping for a solution. Eventually, we called the cops. The police searched the entire hospital and combed the surrounding woods, but they didn't find any trace of Maddie or the man who chased us. Aside from the text agreeing to meet that day, there was no evidence that Maddie had ever been there in the first place. It was as if she simply poofed out of existence. But Kyle and I knew what really happened. We had abandoned her down there with that monstrosity. We'd put our own safety over hers. We were the reason that she was missing, and we had to live with that. Kyle and I drifted apart in the weeks that followed. Maddie still hadn't been found, and I think the weight of what we'd been through was too heavy for us to come to terms with. When I look at Kyle, the crushing reminder of what we'd done, or more aptly what we'd failed to do, would come flooding back. It eventually reached the point where we could only sporadically check in on one another. That is until he sent me a strange text one afternoon. "Hey man, I need to talk to you, not over the phone, face to face. Meet me by the pond in the park at 8 tonight." The message caught me off guard. Whatever it was that Kyle needed to tell me, it sounded urgent. As I would come to find out, it was. I found Kyle sitting on a park bench by the pond. It wasn't completely dark yet, but the sun was dipping below the horizon. As I claimed my spot beside him, I noted that he was staring off in the distance. His hair was disheveled and appeared as if he hadn't slept in days. "Kyle, are you okay? You look like you've been through the ringer." He turned to me, his bloodshot eyes connecting with mine. "Jake, I'm not okay. I don't think I'll ever be okay again, man. I can't take it." He was getting choked up, and tears began to well in the corner of his eyes. "No, you can't think like that. Everything's going to be alright. If this is about Maddie, she'll..." Kyle turned to me, the stone-cold look in his gaze deterring me from finishing my sentence. "You haven't been seeing her, have you? So it's only me. Fuck. I'm screwed, man. It's over. She's going to come for me. Then she'll use me to get you and..." I grabbed Kyle's shoulder and shook him. He was raving like a lunatic, and a silent patient off his meds. "Snap out of it. What are you rambling about? Seeing Maddie? What does that mean?" Kyle looked at me with a cold stare. His wild hair fluttered in the wind as an ominous breeze swept through. "This is going to sound insane, but Maddie has been visiting me, or what's left of her. Her mouth is stitched shut, her hair is soaked in blood, and now she's wearing one of those hospital gowns. It got her. She's not alive anymore, Jake. That thing from the hospital, it's using her to get to me, and once it does, you'll be next." I couldn't formulate a response. I stared at him, mouth agape, turning over his words in my mind. Could what he had just told me even be possible? That's it. That's all I needed to tell you. Well, and I guess wanted to say goodbye. I doubt I'll make it much longer, Jake. I'm so scared. Tears openly streamed down his face, and my first instinct was to pull him into a hug. He sobbed while I tried to console him, failing to subdue the tremors that racked his frame. "Look, it's gonna work out. Trust me. You are not going to die. I'll think of a way out of this." We both knew that my words were hollow, yet it felt better than saying nothing at all. Kyle pulled away and wiped his eyes, that foreign look from when I'd first seen him returning to his face. "Jake, I really hope you're right, for both of our sakes." I called Kyle's mom that night and voiced my concerns. Her son was spiraling, and whether it was due to some entity gunning for his soul or some kind of valid hallucination, I was determined to get him some help. But my efforts were all in vain. Kyle's body was found 2 days later. He'd eaten a slug from a 12 gauge. The neighbors claimed that they had heard screaming, hysterical wails, like Kyle was trying to get away from someone or something, and then they reported hearing multiple gunshots, followed by an unnerving silence. No one saw anyone enter or exit the home, leaving all of the witnesses perplexed. The news painted him like a man with a rampant mental condition, a loon who let his untreated delusions frighten him into making the worst decision possible. But I know that what Kyle saw was real, because lately I've been seeing her too. She appeared for the first time the night that Kyle died, standing below a street lamp across my window. His description of her had been deadly accurate. Maddie's eyes were stitched shut, and her arms hung limply by her sides. Her hair glistened with something dark, and the hospital gown she wore had yellow stains blotched across the front. but her smile. There was something sinister behind it. Something evil pulling the strings, and I'm afraid that I'm going to find out what that thing is firsthand. 3 days have passed since then. I've started seeing Kyle too. The two of them have been moving progressively closer with each passing day. Last night they were in my room. They just stared at me, smirking, taunting me. Maddie with her unseeing eyes and grin with too many teeth. Kyle with what was left of his reconstructed face, flesh and bone melded together to form something vaguely human. Now I realize that they came to deliver a message. My doomsday clock is ticking down, and I only have a few hours left. Because when I awoke this morning, splattered across my bedroom wall, in a deep crimson were the words, "Tonight your soul belongs to me." That's all the stories I have for you guys today. I know that today was a bit of a short day, but I'm still in college. I still have homework to do, but I'll get back to you guys tomorrow with more stories. Okay, I hope you guys have a good day.